Good morning. Hey everyone, it's me, and I am going to be brewing a beer today. This is my first video on YouTube. I'm going to be brewing a beer from Northern Brew, and it is the White House Honey Ale, and I'm going to show you what it has in it, what it came with, and the process. Okay, so excuse the noise in the background if you hear the children. They're children, that's how they roll. Also, this camera is a low definition camera. I'm not too sure how much of it is going to be really low def. I'm going to try to keep it as stable so it focuses well, etc. Anyways, so this is my homebrew kit. I got it for Christmas. It was a pretty cool little gift. It is, like I said, it's from Northern Brewer, and it is the White House Ale. It's a 1 gallon recipe. It came with a honey, a single source honey. It actually has the hive number on it, which is interesting. It's a raw honey. It came with malt syrup extract. This is an extract brewing. It's not a full grain brewing. It came with a nice little muslin bag. This is just the kit for the beer. Came with some Foggle hops, UK Foggle hops. These are pellets, 7 grams. And it also came with Kent Golding's pellet hops, another 7 grams of those. And this says White House Honey Ale 1 gallon grain blend. I'm not really too sure what's in the grain blend. It's obviously, you know, whatever your grains need to be, barley, husks, rice, who knows what. But it's already been done before. Like I said, this is an extract brew, so these are pretty much like a flavoring grain from what I'm gathering. We're only going to steep these for just a short amount of time. It's not like making mash or anything like that. So, yeah, and that's what came in this little box. The White House Honey Ale from Northern Brewer. So, I'm going to toss this aside. I'm going to move these over here, and we'll be getting into those here in a second after we look at some other stuff. First and foremost, for anybody that brews, no rinse cleaner. It's a sanitizer. This one is actually 1 tablespoon per gallon. I've got a couple of gallon jugs set up here. This one's marked off for a gallon, and it actually is marked off for a quart as well, and that's for our water. This actually is my sanitizer. I've already got the 1 tablespoon in here. Shake it up, let it dissolve a little bit, and go from there. This is where I'm going to be sanitizing. I've got a couple other things in here, and we'll go over those here in a second. This actually came with the kit itself, with the large kit. I got the carboy and some filters and siphons and stuff like that with the kit. This also came with the kit too. It's really kind of cool to have. It's pretty much a checklist of what you have to do to brew the beer in pretty much about 2.5 to 3 hours. So that came with that. This is the recipe itself. Has the procedure, etc., etc. It actually has everything on the back side. That's going to be on this page right there. The conditioning, the bottling, the fermentation process, etc., etc. So this will be the main one that we're going to go off of. I actually found this. Okay. So anyways, I found off a Brewer's Friend. It's a brew day sheet for all grain beer recipes, which I don't have. It has, you know, name, Brewmanchu, the grains, etc. It has, you know, where you put your hops in, the expected amount for this particular one, the IBUs. You can find it says for the calculations, you know, brewersfriend.com/stats, and that's how I got my IBUs, and that's an expected gravity of 1.043, and that's the original gravity. That's after it's boiled. So there's the hydrometer readings. I do have a hydrometer, but I'm not doing it in a large enough batch that I have enough to utilize it. I don't have the big enough pot. I don't have a excuse me, a test tube or anything like that to check it out with. There's a type of yeast that we'll be using. It's actually in the refrigerator right now. I should pull it out. Recipe name, etc. So anyways, it also has for your mass schedule and whatnot. So yeah, that's that. Now what I have and what I'm starting out with, I have a siphon. I have the gooseneck that goes into the siphon. I have a couple of hoses. One connects to the siphon. One's a blow-off valve for if the brew bubbles over. I had a couple extra things. I've got a pair of scissors, a nice stainless steel spoon. I've got a small measuring cup. I think it's exactly 1 cup. I've got a funnel. Here's the airlock with the insert in the airlock. It goes down inside, and we'll go into that here in a bit. This is a screw cap for the carboy, and the carboy is this thing right here. Whoops, alright. That's my 1 gallon carboy. It's glass. It's nice, it's heavy, just being stuck with it. Screws on the top of that. That's what this is. So yeah, I also have a little timbal. It's stainless as well, and that's for pitching my yeast. There's the spoon that I use to measure out the sanitizer. This is just it's a Tupperware thing. We're going to actually take our malt extract and we're going to put it in there and put a little bit of warm water inside of it to thin it out a little bit. Spray bottle. Nice and easy thing, handy to have. We'll put this over there next to the stove because that's where we're going to need it. A friend of mine actually told me about that. The lid that we have for our pot, I have a 1.5, I think it might be 2 gallon stainless steel pot. Lid that fits. Yep, lid that fits. And that, I've got a small bowl. It's a 1 quart, maybe 1.5 quart bowl, stainless steel, and I'll be utilizing that here in just a minute. And a large 13 by 9 baking pan, roasting, yeah, you know, casserole dish. There we go, that's what I'm looking for. And in the casserole dish, I am going to put my sanitizer water. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And it should just fill the whole thing up, I'm pretty sure. If it doesn't, we'll have a little bit left over, and that's never a bad thing. Like I said, this is 1 tablespoon per gallon, and the pan is clean. You know, there's nothing inside of it. Go ahead and put the water in there, and then we're going to sanitize everything that's going to touch our beer post-boil. So what we're going to put in there is going to be the screw cap, all the pieces for the airlock. We're actually going to put the scissors in here. We're going to go ahead and throw the yeast jar in there. The spoon as well. I don't think we're going to be needing that post-boil, but I'm going to go ahead and put this in. Our hoses, we'll use the siphon tubes to get everything to go through and move through as we need it. And I'll probably end up sanitizing, you know, thoroughly here in just a minute once we start a brew and I have a little bit of time. So we'll do that for right now. This sanitizer only actually has to make contact with things for 2 minutes. We're going to do the lid as well, and we have a little bit left over that we'll be able to put in the carboy, which is a good thing. And like I said, you know, it's no rinse, which makes it a whole lot easier. Where that doesn't want to focus, does it? There it is. No rinse, which makes it a whole lot easier. And on that note, we're going to move some of this stuff, settle it down, and we'll start brewing. Okay, so I'm back. Yep, I'm back. And we've kind of cleaned up a little bit. We're going to move over to the stove and we're going to start our brew process. So first and foremost, I'm working with an electric stove, so I'm going to go ahead and crank my heat on to max, and I'm going to move over this direction, and I'm going to get my yeast out of the refrigerator to Windsor, British style beer yeast. It came from Danstar, GMO and gluten-free. We're going to go ahead and throw this in our sanitizer. It's cryovac for sous vide style, so it's airtight, and it does need to be sanitized just for the purpose that is going to be in after the boil, so it's not going to be boiled. And we're going to start filling our jug up with some water. And here's my malt extract. I'm going to get some hot water in that and let that go. I've got my scissors, got everything I'm going to need. I've got the grains, the hops here, got my spray bottle. Let's just kind of keep the boil down. If the boil gets up too high, I'm using a bag in my small little bowl. Over here I've got the burner and the kettle. I'm pretty sure you knew that was a burner, but you know, you never know. Okay, so I like to be kind of precise. I mean, I don't know if you have to be, but I kind of like to be precise. So there we go, 1 gallon. Go ahead and dump that puppy in here. Hey, getting hot. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring this up to a temperature of about 150-ish maybe, I think is what I'm going to do. Hold on, let's move this. I'm going to bring this up to about 150. I forgot to grab my thermometer. My thermometer is sitting over there. I usually have it just kind of sitting in the sanitizer for the most part. There's one more quart here. Yeah, that's about right. There it goes. Yeah, perfect. So the recipe itself calls for 1.25 gallons of hot water. So there's my gallon, 1 quart. I'm done with this. I can go ahead and set that aside. Let me grab my thermometer. There it is. And we'll hit it in the sani, just because I like everything to be sanitized. You know, it says to throw it in the stuff post-boil, you know, whatever needs to be post-boil, but for me I like having everything sanitary. And this looks like it's about 80 degrees right now. And we're going to let this come up to 150-ish, like I said, anywhere between 148 to 158 I think is probably the optimal thing. What we're going to do is we're going to steep the grains in this, and it's going to be kind of like making tea. So I'm going to let it come up, but I'm not going to let it come up too much. I'm not going to continue to let the temperature rise. Bar towels are a good thing to have as well, just for cleanup as a side note. Go ahead and turn my hot water on. Get some hot water in the malt extract to allow it to loosen up a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put the grains into the bag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this right here, like so. So you guys can see roughly what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to take the muslin bag, I'm going to open it up and put it right inside this bowl right here, possibly. I'm going to take my grains, open them up, I'm going to dump them right inside, just like that. So now I've got a muslin bag with my grains. Go ahead and shake them through a little bit. It kind of gets rid of some of the dust and powder, so you don't have as much gunk at the bottom of it. Smeg as it may be. At the bottom, once it's done, it doesn't look like it's a whole lot. It actually is not a whole lot. We're going to go ahead and tie it off. And tie it off and let it hang out there for a second. Like I said, we're going to go ahead and let this come up to a boil, or come up to about 150 degrees, and we'll check it one more time, and then we'll turn away for a minute. As the watch pot never boils. Yeah, we're about 100. So I'm going to let that come up to a temp, and alright, so we're back. Getting ready to check my water again. Usually, at least from culinary terms, as some of you know, some of you don't know, I am a culinary artist. I went to Lakota on Blue, California, San Francisco, California Culinary Academy in San Francisco. There we go. And usually when you start to get these bubbles, you're right about 150 or so degrees, 140 to 150 degrees. We're going to check this out here. Looks like we're hitting 140 right now. And it's kind of holding fast. I am cranked up all the way, and it's still rising. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn it down a little bit so we don't go too much over the temperature. Yeah, we're hitting 150 right now, so I'm going to turn it down a little bit as to where we're not going to go too much over that temperature. And we're going to go ahead and stick these in. And the recipe calls for 10 minutes steep time. So we're going to toss these bad boys in here and tie it off right there on the handle. And since I am working with electric, I don't really have to worry about any sort of, float off or burn off. You know what I meant. Anything catching fire or anything like that. I want to keep it kind of up off of the bottom though. I want the grains inside, but I kind of want it off the bottom. And I'm going to kind of let that, for lack of a better term, teabag in there for a second. We'll go ahead and set the timer for 10 minutes, and we will kind of dip it around a little bit, have a little bit of fun with it, get working around in there. Again, I turned the temp down a little bit on it, and then we're just going to let it steep. So we will be back after our timer goes off. Okay, so we're back, and we're about 2 minutes out. Yep, there we go, about a minute out. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this and kind of give it a good, a good old-fashioned tea bagging. Let it stir around in there a little bit. The water hasn't got much hotter. I think it might be about 160. I turned it down a little bit more. I don't really think the temperature really affects it. It kind of wants you to heat it as it's heating up, but I think that, I don't know, I think that's kind of silly. I don't think you're going to get as much out of it through the cold water, because I use cold water. You use cold water in the beginning and let it heat up, but I don't think it's going to catch as much in the cold water as it will with hot water. That's why you don't cold steep too many teas. And in case you haven't noticed, it's sucked up a lot of liquid. I kind of leave the bag loose so they can expand and do their thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start pulling it. My timer's getting ready to go off in 5 seconds, so I'll go ahead and turn that off. Excuse me. And whoo, got a little bit of steam action going on. Give this a couple more tweaks like this. Let it drip out a notch. Maybe give it a good twist. Kind of get some of that liquid out. As much of it as we can. And we'll put that right into our little bowl. How handy, huh? And we'll just set that aside. You can compost that, and you can actually make beer bread out of it, make some spent grains, stuff out of it. So now what we've got is wort, and we are going to bring this up to a boil. And here, according to our sheet, we've got a 45-minute total boil time. And let's see, there we go. A 45-minute total boil time. Our first malt extract and the hop addition is going to be at the beginning of the boil. So I'm not going to start my timer until everything is up and boiling and I've added this in. Our second one, we're going to let it boil for about 30 minutes, and we're going to add our second hops in and boil it for the last 15 minutes. We're going to turn it off, which is also known as knockout. We're going to knock it out and then add the honey at the end, probably so it doesn't boil or so it doesn't burn. So I've got my malt extract again under some hot water. Let that run through a notch. Get nice and syrupy. See, it's kind of thick. I'm going to let that run under some hot water here and let that go while we go ahead and crank this puppy up to 11, and we'll let that start to boil. Once that comes up to a boil, like I said, we're going to add our first hops, which are going to be the Kent Golding hops. So I'm going to go ahead and grab these out. Make sure we got our scissors. This, like I said, is it's a good thing. My buddy showed this to me. It's just a little bottle. I got it from the dollar store or something. You use it to spray it down any sort of boil up. It is a very gross, sticky mess if by chance it gets all over the place. It's just a mess. It's a horrid mess. So as this is, that's a lot better. And we're going to be coming up to a boil here anytime. So I'm going to let that run through and just let it keep going until we get to that. So the first one is going to be, our first boil will be 30 minutes, and then after the 30 minutes we'll add our Fuggle hops in. Yes, our Fuggle hops. And then that will boil for 15 more minutes, and then after that we're going to knock it off and we'll cool it down and we'll go from there. But right now, let's get ready to put in some stuffs. Okay, so we're starting to come up to a boil here. This is where the spoon comes in a little handy. Give it a little stir around and distribute the heat. And I use my little bowl as a catch as well for my spoon, so I don't get gunk everywhere. And like I said, here in about 2 minutes or so, I mean, this is going to come up to a boil, so I'm going to actually go ahead and start adding my malt extract in, and want to make sure that we stir it around and get it dispersed. And that's nice and liquidy right there. I might actually dip this down inside and get a little bit of hot liquid and shake it up a notch. Be very careful if you do this. I am an expert. We'll try to get as much of that out as we can. The malts are your flavor, your sugar, all kinds of good stuff that goes into the beer. And this is actually going to make it come to a boil fairly quickly, just because it's adding more things to allow it to boil. There we go. And we're going to stir that around, make sure that we get it nice and distributed all the way through. And we're about to come up to a full boil here. You don't really want an over-the-top boil, and you want it to be just kind of a casual boil. Rolling, yet not violent rolling. That's not what we're looking for. Go ahead and add in our hops. And this is the Kent Golding hops, 7 grams of it. It's got an alpha acid of 6.47%. If by chance you're calculating out your alpha acids, it is a pellet type substance. It's obviously the hops that have been dried and kind of concentrated into a pellet form, probably the same way you would do a pill dough or something like that, a pill. We're coming up to a boil. I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle these in. I saved my packages just in case I want to reproduce the brew itself. So I'll put that aside. You can already smell the hops. It's kind of fruity. And it's got a little bit of citrus. And of course it's got that hop smell. So we are starting to come to a full boil here. And once it does, I'm actually going to crank the heat down a little bit and not let it bubble up too much. So we'll go ahead and we'll set our timer for about 32 minutes, only because it's going to take about 2 more minutes to come up fully to a boil. If you wanted to, you could probably put a lid on it, but if you don't watch it for 3 seconds, it'll spew over and you'll have just a gigantic mess. So hops are added, our malt is in. And we are going to boil this up, and we're coming up to a pretty decent boil. With the addition of the hops, it really wants to kind of foam and froth like you see it doing right now. Starting to get a good bubble in the middle right about there. Be careful, it's hot, you know, don't pay attention to me, safety first, you know, don't need to be sticking your hands in there just to get hot liquid for your malt extract, but that's just how I roll. I don't have a whole lot of feeling in my fingers. I've been a culinarian and a chef for quite some time, so hot really doesn't bother me. So right now we're starting to come up to that boiling point, and I'm going to turn it down a notch. I'm going to turn it down to about 3/4 heat. And we're going to sit here and we're going to watch this for a little bit. And with the spray bottle, we're going to take a spray bottle and we're going to spray down these little bits of, well, I guess I can see the little bits of foam. It kind of also helps keep the hops off of the side and more towards the middle of the pot. And not that it really matters because the water is touching it, but it's mainly useful for just keeping the foam and the froth down. We can probably turn this up a notch until we get a good consistent boil. We do want it rolling, but not over the top. And this is one of the things, you can see all the hops collecting over on the side. This is one of those things that it's very, very delicate. If you have a gas stove or you're running a propane burner or something like that, it'll be a lot easier to control the temp. I could have another burner on, but they're all small burners, so it kind of comes into no help at all. So we're boiling. We'll crank it up just another notch. See if we can get a good strong boil on it. And we'll waft some of this away. Maybe you can see a little bit better. We're up to a pretty decent boil there. There we go. That's kind of what we're looking for. And we want this to, we're going to have to babysit this a little bit. I don't expect you guys to do that with me. But we're going to babysit this. Knocking back the foam is necessary. It's not really coming up too hot and heavy right now. As far as the foam goes, I'm going to give it another notch higher on the old Stovinator, and just to get a really, really strong boil. We want it really strong, but not, like I said, not violent. So we'll do this, and I'll probably catch you back in here in about 30 minutes when we'll do our second hops addition and get ready for cooling it and throwing it in the fermenter. So there's my boil, and I'm going to babysit this puppy for a minute. Alright, so we're about 1 minute out on our first boil, our first 30 minutes. It's going to be our second edition of hops. This is going to be the Fuggle hops, the Fuggle hops, 7 grams. And I'm going to go ahead and kill my timer. I got about 40 seconds left on it. As you can see, we're still really kind of boiling up. It's nice, solid boil. The malt has actually helped it to thicken up just a little bit, just through the evaporation process and stuff like that. So it's a little bit thicker. It's easier to maintain. It's actually cranked up to 11. Again, these are the Fuggle hops. It's another pellet hop, and those are just going to go right into the boil. We will immediately start our timer, and this is for the final 15 minutes. Make sure those are all out of there. Use our spoon, give it a good stir around. And let that go. In the meantime, what we're going to do is, alrighty then, sorry, messed that one up. In the meantime, what we're going to do is we're going to take our spoon and we're going to rinse it off completely. Make sure there's no gunk and grime on it. And we're going to begin our sanitation process and stuff like that. I've actually already started off. There's my sandy water again. We're going to go ahead and put that spoon in there because we're going to utilize it to help with the cooling process. Again, like I said, this sanitizer is no rinse. It only has to be in contact with everything for 2 minutes. And so yeah, I've rinsed everything and sanitized everything. It's all laid out on a nice clean towel. We've got the airlock, all the caps for them. This is for my yeast. I actually have the yeast pack, the tubes, the lid, my thermometer, my hydrometer. I don't know if I've got enough liquid in the gallon or in the brew pot to utilize the hydrometer, but I'm going to try just so I can at least get an OG, an original gravity for it, and I'll at least have some sort of calculations to go off of. There's the siphon. Here's the gooseneck, which is where the hose attaches, and to the siphon. I went ahead and took this out as well because you need a teaspoon of sanitizing liquid into this at the end of it, into your airlock to keep it from, as a airlock. That's how it rolls. So pretty much everything here has been sanitized and has been sitting in the liquid for a while. We'll do the carboy here in a minute, probably around the time that the wort comes down. And as you can see, we've got some good froth going on. And with the electric stove, the one thing that is kind of handy that I've noticed is that it remains a constant temperature. Once it's hot, and it seems to keep a really good steady boil going on through most time. The pot itself is big enough that I'm not going to have too much of a boil over, even if it did. I suggest using a pot at least 1 or 2 times bigger than well, I guess it wouldn't be 2 times, 1 time bigger. Yeah, anyways, bigger than what you're boiling at. I've got a gallon, so use a 2-gallon pot. You're going to probably prevent any sort of boilovers. And I've got stuff along the side. I've got a little bit of hops along the side. I'm going to go ahead and shoot those down back into the pot. A little bit of clean water. There we go. Doesn't really lower the temperature enough to, keep it from not boiling. So we're going to go ahead and let that go for another 12 minutes. And as we're doing that, I'm going to start filling up the sink with a little bit of cold water, just to chill the sink itself and to get the pot ready to go in, because this needs to sit for a while. I don't have a whole lot of ice because I don't have an ice maker. Well, I have an ice maker, but it's not attached to any sort of water line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the ice that I have, and since it's below freezing outside, My pipes are staying pretty cold, so water's actually colder than what it normally is. Here's what ice I have. I've got a few ice packs and stuff like that that I will utilize as well. And until then, like I said, everything is kind of sanitized and ready to go. We'll do the carboy here in a bit. It's glass, so remember that you want to be careful. This sanitizer solution is it has kind of a film. It makes it a little slimy almost. Not slimy, that's kind of a gross word for it, but it's filmy and slick. So when you're handling the carboy and you're sanitizing it, you want to make sure that you have at least one dry hand, or the outside of it is dry, something. We've got the Guinness glass is a new addition. That's going to be for after we put everything in the bottle and put our airlock on top of it. We are going to pour the beer that I brewed previously. It started out on its birthday was the 31st of December. So it went through its process, took about 4 days, maybe, close to a week. I let it set for another week, maybe, just to kind of give it full time. Then bottled it and let it condition for a couple of weeks. We've got these little pellets. They're like sugar pellets that go into it as a priming charge whenever you bottle it, just to kind of it's what gives it carbonation. So did that, and I've got a few of them in the fridge. I've tasted one. It's pretty dang good, but we'll go ahead and pull it out and we'll drink another one after this was all ready to go into the fermenter and that process is done. So I'm going to let you go for another 10 minutes and we'll see. Okay, so we got about 2 minutes left on our brew, and I'm going to go ahead and start getting my sink ready. The sink's got some water in it. I'm going to go ahead and put you up on a stand right here, like so, and we're going to get some ice and etc. for it. Like I said, it's not a whole lot, but I'm going to do a kind of a cooling process that we do in culinary school. It's going to be kind of a circulator, doing the whole circulation of the water around it, keeping it cool. And I'm also going to kind of give it a stir here and there right off the bat. My timer went off, so what we're going to do next is we are going to go over here. Honey's open and ready. I have a clean sanitized teaspoon. That's going to help us get it out. And we're going to go ahead and get ready to knock this off. Timer off. Do the knock off. And we're going to let that just kind of drop a notch before we add the honey. Let's see if we can go like this. That doesn't really work now, does it? Alright, so we're going to go ahead and just put you back on the stand. And you can just watch me put the honey away or in there from this distance. And there we go. Pretty much got as much honey as we're going to get into that end of the pot. You can dip it down inside if you are very careful and get a little bit. You can swish it around and get some of the honey out. You could also run it into hot water like we did the malt extract in order to and get it to be a little bit more liquid form. So that's off. I'm going to go ahead and bring it over and put it in the sink. And now we're in the sink, and we're going to let that chill. What I'm going to do is I have my thermometer has been sanitized, and we are going to, well, first let's try the hydrometer. Hydrometer has been sanitized, so I'm going to go ahead and try that, see if I can get a reading on it at all. No, it doesn't look like I'm going to get a reading, only because I don't have enough liquid in there. So that's kind of a bummer. And I don't have a test tube, like I said. Test tubes are skinny enough that I don't have to waste a lot of alcohol or a lot of wort in order to test it. Pretty much 1.5 times taller than the 2 times taller than the hydrometer itself. So that's no longer necessary. Let's go ahead and put our pot on. We're going to give it a stir real quick though, and kind of help the water distribute around it, or the coolness, get some air to it. And we're looking for about 70 degrees, is about as low as I want to get it, only because we're going to pitch our yeast, and when our yeast is probably the best between 65 and 70 degrees, and that's when it's going to be happy to ferment too. And so right now we're going to do this. I'll probably have you way over here looking at other things, but yeah, this is what we're doing. We're going to give it a stir and let that hang out. Go ahead and rinse this back off. And we'll stick that back in the sanitizer and let that just hang out just to the next time that we need it. Grab our sanitized lid, give it a shake. We'll put that on there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure you got some nice cold water, and I'm going to create a circulator of sorts. It doesn't have to be going really fast. It just kind of has to be going. That's going to help it to cool down. And I'll check on the temperature periodically, just to see how close I'm getting it. The last time that I did it, I think it only took, I don't know, about 20-30 minutes to drop this low, if that. So give it a good 10-15 and then check it, and then do it again. So I'll see. Okay, here we go. So it's been a few minutes, and I'm pretty sure our wort's gone down in temperature. We don't have as much steam coming off of it. I'm going to check it here in a minute. Probably about 80 degrees or so right now. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and start pitching the yeast. And it says to use, it says like half of the package. Yeah, half of the yeast package. Sanitized scissors, cut it open. The scissors themselves are sanitized. The yeast packet itself is sanitized. And so is the container. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut this open right here like so, maybe, possibly, we'll see how that works. Let's go like this. Ta-da! So I'm going to go ahead and cut this open. I'm going to use half the yeast that's in here. I'm not gonna like really measure it out or anything like that. So it's 11 grams, if anybody cares enough. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. If there's more, you're just going to have more yeast cells, I think. I'm not really too sure how that's going to work. But I'm pretty much going to do what is known as blooming. To the yeast. That's about half. Looks good. So the rest of it, they said that you really can't use for anything. They said you can use it to make beer bread or whatever that you wanted to. Yeah, that, by the way, that was, like I said, Dan Star, British style beer yeast. And so I've got it here. I'm going to go ahead and get my thermometer out. And we're going to get some like 70 degree water going on. 70 degrees should be just, you know, cool to the touch. Probably almost cold to the touch. I'll measure this out. It's too hot. That's about right. After a while, you just kind of get used to what things feel like, what kind of temperature they are. This is looking like it is right at 70 degrees. So I'm just going to get the tiniest little bit of water in here. give it a little bit of love. It's called blooming in culinary terms. And shake it around a little bit, a little bit more, and then we'll knock that back. So then I'm going to take my small teaspoon. Here it is. I'm going to give it a stir. I'm going to let that activate a little bit before we toss it into the old fermenter. So that's going to get our yeast going. Around room temp, we're going to let it sit and blossom up a little bit. It's kind of gunky, so we'll just let that hang out. We'll move that right over here. And we're going to go take our thermometer, once again in the sanitizer. Though I just ran it under cold water right there. It's always a good thing to sanitize. And check this up and over and off. And we'll take a good look at this. And we are, wow, we're really close. We're right at 80 degrees. So it's a good thing that we are pitching our yeast now. That way it has plenty of time to bloom before we start bottling, or before we start putting it into the carboy and doing our fermentation cycle. Here I already have the siphon set up. It's put together. The gooseneck goes inside, and then I've got the tube. I think I don't even know how big it is. But this is my sanitizer liquid, and I just kind of like pumped some through it. Just kind of gave it a little pumping action and sucked the sanitizer out and through the hose and into the other sanitizer. So we're good and sanitized here. So I'm going to take that out and let it drain out, and so we don't get any sanitizer solution in the beer. And a good thing about working with the sanitizer, if you have a leftover, if you have some in a container like this down here with a spoon and stuff in it, as long as if you're touching it, and not really messing around with too much else, you still have sanitized hands, which is a good thing. We no longer need this. Our yeast is gone. We do have the sanitized airlock, and everything has been kind of laid out. We're going to go ahead and throw some sanitizer into the old. You know what? Let's go ahead and use a funnel just to make it that less messy. We're going to move our carboy over here into the sink. There's a couple of cutting boards set up. Gravity is your friend, so utilize it. We're going to go ahead and pour some of the sanitizer solution down in the carboy. And we will be holding on to that for a bit. And I'm going to put you right here. Stand for a minute. Possibly. Okay, that was foolish, but here we go. I'm going to go ahead and clean out this carboy and get ready to set up and pull the wort out, get the carboy sanitized, and we'll start draining. Okay, so we're back, and our brew kettle is up here, and our wort has come to a nice happy 70 degrees. We've got our carboy down here, again, elevation and height. I told you that we already went ahead and started doing our siphon and all that fun stuff. Already has been sanitized and ready to go. The gooseneck just goes down inside like this, and we're going to put one end of the gooseneck's going down into the carboy, and the other end is going to go in here. But I'm going to put you up on a rocker here real quick. Tripod. Hopefully we'll do this smoother than we did the last time. So it doesn't seem it. Okay, so there we go. Again, elevation, etc. We're going to try to leave, there's going to be some gunk behind everything at the bottom. So we're going to try to leave that behind as we can. Go ahead and put this down inside and give it a couple of pumps full of, give it some juice to get going, prime it out, I guess, right? And then we're just going to let that go. At some point we are going to want to elevate it just to be able to get the remainder out. just to be able to get the remaining liquid out of the bottom without getting the sludge, as it might be, into it. There we go. Nice free flow. Nice and easy. I could have a little bit more height on it, but I don't. So we're just going to go ahead and pump this out. There we go. Looks a little bit easier, a little bit better looking. Keep this going. We'll try to, again, we're going to try to keep as much of the gunk out of the bottom as possible. We'll try not to stir it all up and about. And we'll try not to do that, but we just did. Flip it over on its side. Looks like I'm going to have a lot of sludge, but I think I'll be alright. I don't think it's going to hurt it any. Then again, I really don't know. Like I said, this is only my second beer that I've ever brewed, so we'll just pump it out and see what we come up with. Alright, so our carboy is full. I'm going to set this aside for right now. And in case you haven't noticed yet, but I'm sure we'll hear in a second, our carboy is not filled to the top. Whoa, shenanigans. We're going to move this right over here. And we'll find a spot for it somewhere. Right in here. So our carboy is not filled to the 1 gallon. You probably can't see that right there, but it looks like we might not have too much sludge in it. Yeah, we might have a little bit of sludge in it. It might be kind of gross. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pitch the yeast, and we're going to go ahead and pour it like nice and bubbly and frothy. I'll pour that straight down inside of it. We got enough aeration in it that it should be pretty good. Now I'm going to go ahead and get some of this water going again at about 70 some odd degrees. And we're going to fill it up the rest of the way to the 1 gallon line. And again, we want it to be about 70 degrees and not much warmer than that. That's 80, come on now. Turn that down, we'll go ahead and use this. Actually no, we've got our already sanitized little gig right here. We're going to pour that into the remainder of the yeast. Make sure that we get as much yeast as we can out of it. A bit of a stir. The water's still running behind me, so we can make sure we get a consistent temperature. But since I already have the water, here we go. We're going to go ahead and fill it up the rest of the way to the 1 gallon mark. Again, this is the same straight tap water, but it is right at around 70 degrees. Right at around, yeah, you got that? Right at 70 degrees. Go ahead and fill it up, fill it up, fill it up. We might need one more of these. Yeah, I think I'm going to do one more. Oops. Fail. I'm going to put it right up there. That should be right at the booyah, 1 gallon mark. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put our screw cap on, and we're going to give it a little bit of a shuffle. We'll work that around a little bit, aerate it up, a little bit of oxygen in the love, and we're going to put our airlock on. And make sure that's on there nice and tight without popping anything. Make sure the lid's on nice and tight. There's that. Now we need 1 tablespoon of sanitizer solution. And I like to be precise about things, so here is 1 tablespoon of sanitizer solution. Put the air bung thing in, which I probably should have, could have, would have done. I think you need just a drop more. There we go. And then there's a small cap, has holes in it. It goes right over top. And there she is. So we have a White House honey ale in the fermentation tank right now, in the fermentation carboy. And I think you know how yeast is going to bubble and it's going to create carbon dioxide. As the carbon dioxide is released, it'll come through here and it'll bubble off. The yeast will eat the sugar, sugar creates alcohol, and the yeast farts out carbon dioxide. And so what I'm going to do is, on this, my brewer's friend thing, I am going to go ahead and write in my notes. So today we started brewing it on the, what's today's date? On the 5th of February, so we'll go 2/5/2014, and we're going to go down here, and we're going to say birth at 1800 or 6 o'clock. And then that way I know for future use how much is how long it's sat. So right now it is going to hang out, and I'm going to put it in a cool dark spot. Well, not cool, it's going to be about 65 to 70 degrees, so pretty much ambient air room temperature. Keep it away from sunlight, and we will check it out in about a week. Actually, we'll check it out here and there periodically just to see if the bubbles have stopped. Once the bubbles have stopped and you don't have any more activity down here, and then you should be ready to go. Like I said, I let mine set just another couple of days, just give it a final little oomph. I kind of swirled it at one point in time to reactivate a little bit if I could. I don't know if it did anything, but who knows. So that's going to go in a cool dry spot, and we'll go from there. We'll stick this right here for right now. Everything from this point on is just kind of clean up, but we are going to move some stuff aside, grab our Guinness glass, and we are going to grab our White House Honey Porter. And we're going to put you on a tripod again. So yeah, that was that. That's how I brew beer. It's an extract kit. Hopefully I'm going to be able to get into all grain soon. I want to start doing larger batches, but I kind of want to find a recipe to kind of perfect before I go down to a larger batch. All the supplies I got was from Northern Brewer. You can find them at northernbrewer.com. I've got some of the sheets and stuff from Brewer's Friend. They've got a lot of good resources there. That's brewersfriend.com. And you can find me, the Brewman22, on Yahoo, or I'm sorry, on YouTube. This is my first YouTube video again. Hope you like it. I'm hoping to have some more, and yeah, I hope. Right now, I'm going to pop this puppy open. White House came with these little American flag bottle toppers. Now, with this, I had a little bit of yeast left over in the bottom, which I don't think is a bad thing. It kind of probably helped out a little bit with the carbonation. They gave some little sugar tablets. It's kind of a priming agent to create the carbon dioxide and the carbonation that you need. So there's that. That looks pretty good. Still smells pretty good. And it tastes like a very good porter. Don't really taste the honey. I'm wondering if I can add some more to it. bring out a little bit more of the sweetness. It's not as bitter as a normal porter. It's actually kind of smooth. You can definitely taste the black, you know what I mean? How the porter tastes that tanniny. It's not really uber dry because you still have it. It's just a dead finish though. I don't find a whole lot of the finish. Not my number one type of beer. I usually drink Guinness, but this is pretty good for a porter. I'll probably end up brewing this again at some point in time, or taking the recipe and figuring out what I can do. Again, this was another extract, so you know, maybe I'll do an all grain and we'll see what we can do with that. Bottles, when it comes to bottling day, we'll talk more about that. When it comes to bottling day, I actually went to the Redemption Center. I don't know if everybody has Redemption Centers, but you take it, you get money back for your bottles, 5 cents a bottle, and they sell it back to you. And I got just a bunch of Sam Adams bottles. You can get Grosh bottles, but they're pretty much hard to find. And any sort of brown, thick, black, brown, super dark bottle is the best way to go. Make sure it's the pop tops and not the screw offs. Make sure you put those through a hot dishwasher with a sanitized, no soap, just a straight sanitized. If you have some sort of sanitizer solution or a light bleach solution, that would be fine too. But we'll talk more about that when it comes to bottling day. Right now I'm going to let my honey ale ferment and do its gig, and I'm going to drink this beer. And I'll talk to you later on in life. I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe if I have more than one video, and leave some comments.